What if one phone call can change your entire career and land you a job at Google? That's exactly what happened to me. However, the dream job that was advertised turned into a mini nightmare. Well over 10 years ago, I walked into a temp agency to look for a job. It was called Apple One. Walked in shortly after college, needed some work, and thought they could help me land a gig. And they ended up recruiting me to become a recruiter for them. And I had never thought of becoming a recruiter. Like, no one ever thinks about that in college. So I thought to myself, well, I never considered being a recruiter, but I always felt like I was a people person. I like to connect people. Recruiting was kind of the same type of thing, except you could do it as a career. And the more people that you got jobs for, the more money you made at the agency. So I thought, hey, like this could be fun. Maybe I can make some decent money. So I started work, quickly got pretty good. But the problem was, I realized you found some resumes, you tried to submit some candidates to some positions, but you ultimately sent those candidates to someone else in your team, an account manager, and they would forward your email and your resumes to the client. So this is middleman I had to deal with at the recruiting agency, which was fine, but they didn't always forward my resumes on time. They didn't always follow up. They didn't really get good feedback. So I felt like a lack of control. My commission, my livelihood is dependent on this person, this account manager. It was around this time that I felt frustrated that I wasn't making the amount of money I did. I didn't have the control. And so I thought, I heard that having a cushy corporate recruiting job was the way to go. I had known some people that worked at Salesforce, at Facebook at the time, and they were making like six figures where you don't have any other clients like an agency. And you just had to focus on filling one type of role and that's it. And I was like, wait, that sounds way better. But I thought, maybe one day I'll look to get to corporate recruiting. Well, the way I got in happened to be when I made a recruiting call at the staffing company. At Apple One, I was staffing a retail position, a store supervisor, something like that. So I found someone's resume. I called them. I said, hey, I saw your resume online. Love your retail experience. You manage a store, it looks like, blah, blah, blah. I have a position I think you'd be great for. Are you open to hearing about that? Lady said, oh, hey, John, thanks for calling. I'm actually not in retail anymore. I actually transitioned my career to recruiting. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, nice to meet a fellow recruiter. And she goes, well, John, let me flip the script on you. I'm like, huh? She goes, yeah, as we were talking, I just quickly looked you up on LinkedIn and I like your background. And I actually am recruiting for a recruiter for one of my clients. And I said, oh, that's nice. Thanks for thinking of me. But I haven't been here that long. I'm still kind of learning the ropes. So I think I'm good for now. And she's like, okay, well, the client I'm recruiting for is Google. And I said, okay, I'm listening. And it's funny because I was at the office and there were like my boss is like two rows behind me. So I was like very quiet, like, yeah, yeah, tell me more. I'm listening, just trying to play it cool. She's like, yeah, it was over 100,000 a year. Which at the time was way more than I was making at a temp agency. So I said, okay, I'm interested. Sure, I'll email you my resume. So fast forward a few weeks, I landed the job. I got in, and I remember the first day of walking to the Google campus, it felt like a dream. Like it was this amazing, beautiful campus. There was this bright red, piano, and people were playing it in the lobby. People were riding little razor scooters, laughing and playing. And I'm like, this is great. Like I made it. Like I was so happy. I was thrilled I was making so much money at the time. And I was like just gushing about this job with my friends, my family. I was, telling my mom, like she was proud of me. The first 2 weeks was amazing. I was getting paid to learn really advanced recruiting techniques to level up my skills. And in between trainings, there was this amazing cafeteria where we got to enjoy the food and explore. I was like eating at every single cafeteria on campus, just checking it out. They had little fridges with like fancy mint water and smoothies. And sure enough, every day after work, I would throw them in my backpack and like stock my fridge at home. And so I'm like, this is great. So those 2 weeks were like amazing. I met friends. What changed though, when I realized that this amazing opportunity wasn't quite as advertised, was the first day I actually started real work. First day at the desk, I had my roles to recruit on. And I just quickly asked my manager, like, okay, awesome. So I'll be working on this. I take a lunch break around noon. How long are lunch breaks, by the way? And I thought my manager would say an hour-ish, like no big deal. We're Google. And he goes, well, the cafeteria is right there. And, if the food's ready to go. So however long it takes you to eat, like 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, that That does not sound cushy at all. Like, what the heck? So I just was like, okay, sure. And then I started working, and that's when I started noticing little things. I went to the restroom for a break. I walked by some friend, like, hey, man. I said hi, and they were like, hey, I'll catch up with you later. Like, they're kind of serious. And after work, I asked that person, like, hey, man, like, are you okay? Like, why are you acting so stressed? Like, it's not just you, by the way. Other people are just like acting kind of super serious. Like, what's going on? I thought this was chill, and they're like, no, dude, like, we're trying to keep our jobs. I'm like, keep your job? What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we're hourly contractors. If we ever don't hit our numbers, like, we can get cut like that, like at a moment's notice. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Maybe we should all just heads down, work hard, and maybe 6 months, a year, whatever, they'll convert us into a full-time employee. Now we'll be set for life. And the guy's like, are you tripping? Like, that's not how it works. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, like if you're working as a corporate recruiter and you're in a certain department, and for any reason, if they go on a hiring freeze or they decide not to hire those roles, who's the first person that they're going to let go if they're not hiring? I'm like, I guess recruiters. He's like, exactly. So that's when I learned that this corporate recruiting dream was not a dream at all. Yes, it had some upsides. You can make good money, but if you're hourly, good luck. And that's when I started looking for opportunities to go back into the agency world. It was cool being at Google, but after a while, I was pitching the same job over and over again. I did miss the hustle. I did miss serving many different clients. But the problem was I wanted to have more client control. As a corporate recruiter, you submit directly to the hiring manager, the VP, the director, and you had direct line of communication to the person making the decision about yes or no, am I going to hire this person? As a employee of a recruiting agency, you don't have that control. I would spend hours like scouring the internet and LinkedIn and Google looking for candidates, spend hours talking to a bunch of them, finally find one that was ready, available. The compensation was a match. They were looking to leave their job, but I would then have to submit it to another person at the agency, and I just wait. And their job of an account manager is to then try to like sell your candidate to the client. But usually they just forward the resume, like, here you go, take a look, and forward my email. And then if it came back with like, oh, pass, or not quite what we're looking for, that will be the feedback I got from them. I'm like, what do you mean that's not what they're looking for? So I decided to look for opportunities where I could have both client control and candidate control, which is called in the recruiting agency world, full desk recruiting. You're getting clients, you're negotiating a fee agreement, and you're finding candidates, and you can basically get your own client, fill the role yourself with your candidate, and then you actually make more commission when you like double dip. So that was my goal, and that's where I ended up transitioning my career to. I can get the business, shake their hand, go back to my office, find the position, fill it, and life was good. So that was my career trajectory until I got laid off. And that's when I decided to start my own recruiting business. But that's a story for another video. Anyways, I hope you got value from this. I think the key takeaways I'm hoping to impart upon you is that one, you never know when a great opportunity might come by. So keep your eyes open, because it might just be one phone call randomly that leads to a whole career leap. And for me, it definitely was. Having Google on my resume definitely opened up a lot of doors. However, cautionary tale, not every job is advertised as it seems. Behind every dream job, there's probably like a lot of stress behind it. So running your own recruiting business is an amazing opportunity for recruiters, especially since you can do it part-time on the side without quitting your day job. But you also need to be well-rounded and have all the skills in the other necessary domains in order to be successful with your recruiting business. So for example, skills like marketing, personal branding, business development, LinkedIn automation, sales, finance, and operations. And if you feel like you might be lacking in any of those key skills, you're going to likely struggle when it comes to launching your own recruiting business and getting new clients. But I actually have another video coming out soon where I'll be breaking out everything you'll need to know if you want to start your own recruiting business. And if that video is already out, you'll see that pop up on the screen. So feel free to go check that out. Again, thanks for your time. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.